1 second here. Fantastic. So it looks like we're live. So thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We're really excited to have this discussion with the folks from BeFriend who are joining us this evening. Well, it's the morning for them. They're joining us from Australia. I just want to take an opportunity to welcome everyone. My name is Taylor. I'm from Belonging Brant, and I'm part of the wonderful team of community folks and community agencies who help put together this wonderful week of events. We're all really excited that you've chosen to join us. Obviously, the 2021 Asset-Based Community Development Symposium looks really different this year than it has in the past. We're not able to gather together, but we're really excited that we get to play and be together in this virtual space. And we're really excited about the virtual community that we're working to build here together. This week has offered us a really great space to gather together and to engage with brilliant, creative, and playful, and also very resilient community connectors and community builders from both our own local area and obviously from way beyond Brantford. So big thank yous to our community partners and to the Ontario Trillium Foundation for helping us pull this all together. As we begin today's conversation about connection and about asset-based community development and about being together, it's really crucial that we ground ourselves in the histories and futures that are part of the spaces where we're currently sitting. Across this amazing digital network we've cultivated, there are numerous stories of land, treaties, and stewardship. And as the local hosts, we're located on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Neutral peoples. This land is part of the Haldimand Tract and is captured within the Two-Row Wampum Belt Covenant and Dish with One Spoon Treaty. These treaties instruct us to honor the original peoples of this land as the stewards of this space, to embrace and celebrate the ecology and networks of natural life that grow here, and to live lives of peaceful non-interference. We urge each of you to become more familiar with the treaties and nations of the land where you live in order to more wholly inform the work that you do and to more deeply connect with the concepts of community that we're discussing today. We'd also really appreciate it if folks could drop in the chat some more information about where you're joining us from tonight. And we'd also love to know how you found out about this event. We want to acknowledge the lineage of disability justice advocates whose work for the cultivation of inclusive online spaces has informed so many of the ways that we're able to connect during COVID-19. We're super grateful to the generations of thinkers and activists who came before us to instruct and inform the resources, accessibility tools, and the social distancing techniques that have become a lifeboat to our communities during these distance times. So tonight, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for engagement and connection. Feel free when the moment is right to connect with one another by unmuting, by using the chat, by using the reaction buttons, and participating in any kind of Q&A opportunities that present themselves. And the folks who are joining us on YouTube, feel free to interact in the chat. With that in mind, though, I'll remind you to just try to stay muted while other folks are talking. So thank you again so much for being here tonight. And without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to our friends Dave and Nick from BeFriend. Thank you for being here tonight.
It's a lovely opening. Thanks so much, Taylor. Hi, folks. My name's Nick, and I'm here with my friend and colleague, Dave Lindner, who you'll see in one of the other little boxes on your screen. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we're all gathering in different parts of this wonderful world. We're coming to you from Wajak Noongar Boodja in Western Australia, and it's such a privilege to spend a little bit of time with you this evening. When we were just joining this session just a few moments ago, and I said to Taylor, how many people are you expecting for this session? Acknowledging the time difference and that it's 8:40 in the evening for all of you. She said, oh, there's about 39 people in the waiting room at the moment. And I was like, whoa, that many people that have taken the time on their evening to join in for this session. That's such a delight. So it's, yeah, I just really want to acknowledge all of you taking the time to be here with us. And feel welcome to throw in the chat just a little comment about what's brought you here this evening. I think that'd be really lovely for us to hear and to understand. Dave and I had a little bit of a chat about this session a couple of days ago, and Look, we don't really see ourselves as experts in any sort of regard. Like what kind of really kind of came up for us was this feeling of being like friends from afar. So we're really on the other side of the world from you. We don't think that we're here to teach you anything, but we believe that we have a lot of things in common. There are a lot of things that really matter to us in mutual ways, and that we feel that we're all part of the same bigger picture. So what we thought might be useful for our time together is maybe if Dave and I have a little bit of conversation together, which you can all listen into, to hear us reflect on some of our experiences with BeFriend and perhaps some of the stories and the examples that we've experienced through doing this over the last, well, up to 11 years it's been now. And then we'll open up to some broader conversation together, because we'd love to hear what sort of thoughts or ideas or perspectives or questions that brings up for you too. So a little bit about BeFriend, just to create a little bit of context. So BeFriend is a community development organisation, and we've been running for about 11 years now. I've had the privilege of being part of that team right since the get-go. And, you know, when BeFriend started, it was really born out of this desire for all people to have this deep sense of belonging, connection to people, to place, to themselves, to one another, and to grow the sort of world where all people are valued for their unique selves, and derive that sense of belonging in their life. But we were pretty young and naive, and we're like, we don't really know how to make that happen. So let's just get stuck in and have a crack, and what have we got to lose? That was sort of the attitude that got us started. So 11 years ago, what that looked like was a bunch of us just kind of coming together in local parks, local cafes, local bars, local places around the broader Perth area, and hosting all sorts of different social gatherings and events, and saying, if you're interested in meeting some new people, if you want to kind of get out beyond the usual routine of your day-to-day and have some different kinds of experiences, and see what might grow from that. If you're a little bit curious like us, then come along. You'll be most welcome. And to just kind of approach that with a really open attitude and a desire to really meet people from really different backgrounds, because beyond the friendships and connections that we might naturally form with people who are similar to ourselves, we believe that there's something really important and special about connecting with people who are different from us too, who come with different backgrounds, different life experiences, that just has so much to teach us, and in so many ways it enriches life. So that's really kind of where BeFriend sprung from. And you know, pan forward a bit, we're 11 years later, and things have gotten a little bit more organized and have changed in some different ways. So right now we have a team of 7 community builders that have a real focus on a particular locality, like their local community, their local neighborhood. And those community builders are in some ways doing very similar kinds of things. They're having conversations with local people to explore what connection might look like for them in the context of their life and their local neighborhood, and what are the things that matter to them, what sort of experiences would they perhaps want to share with others, and how might they take the lead with some of that? How might they create some of those experiences either themselves or together with others, and see what can kind of nurture and grow from that. So right now, BeFriend kind of looks like this network across the broader Perth area, where there's a few hundred social gatherings, groups, like neighbourhood initiatives happening every month in different parts of the city, all that just create really simple ways for people to come together, share new experiences, meet new people, and see what grows from there. And hopefully, at the real core of that, to be continually working towards deriving that internal sense of belonging within oneself. So that's kind of that's BeFriend in a nutshell. And Dave, my friend Dave, he's been with us for about 3.5 years now. And Dave is like a really important part of our team of community builders, who plays a really strong role in having those conversations with people to help them kind of bring their creative ideas to life, and also in working with those community builders to through all of the different challenges and potential opportunities that come their way to kind of explore that together. And things have changed a lot for us in the last 3 years, just in terms of how we actually think about what we're doing and how we approach that. So that's some of what we thought it might be useful for us to kind of explore together this evening. So Dave, I might throw to you. Dave and I haven't really kind of planned much beyond this. So we're just kind of going to surprise each other with some kind of curious questions for each other, just to kind of see what comes from that to start with. So Dave, like, I'd love to hear kind of, it's been sort of 3.5 years now. What drew you to BeFriend originally, and what's kept you with us for that period of time?
Thank you, Nick, and hi everybody. Good evening. Lovely to be here. Nice to see so many people wanting to join us. I definitely don't feel like an expert in this at all. So as Nick said, we have some experiences that I think it would be maybe of interest for people. Well, over the last 3.5 years, but I think in particular over the last 12 to 15 months, this idea of people needing connection and needing to belong, and this real deep-seated human necessity, really. I was going to say desire, but it feels much stronger than desire. This need to be connected, and the people that are willing and able and want to do that and want to contribute and to be part of an organization and part of a community of people who care so deeply about each other and the communities that they are nurturing in their little neighborhoods is pretty special. There's my little local community is somewhere I feel deeply connected to. The ability to walk down the street and to see people you know, have a conversation, and continue on your way and do that multiple times on the street, at the shops, in your local park is something that I think is important for all of us. Nick, I missed the second part of your question because my tech dropped out. What was it?
What's kept you at this for as long as you have been?
Oh, that's a good question, and I feel like that's a surprising one. I think the sheer joy of it, actually. Like, it can be hard work some days. Don't get me wrong. There can be challenges in there, but I think the joy of and the excitement of being able to connect people and see the happiness, the engagement, the connection, the sense of belonging that you bring, that you are able to not bring ourselves, but enable other people to bring for themselves and for other people in their communities. That's the thing that brings me to work every day and keeps me going. And the opportunity to contribute to that in some way, not necessarily not really in my neighborhood, but in other people's neighborhoods, and to support them. And I think one of the important things about BeFriend is not doing it for people. This idea that we can support people to do the things they want to do, to connect to their communities, to offer other people the opportunity to connect to their communities and their neighborhoods. And we can support those people to do that, but it's not about us doing those things for other people. And I think it's interesting, Nick, to reflect on where we as an organization have come and how we've grown over the last 11 years or so. And in your introduction, you talked about this idea of when you first started, how you and other people involved in that small initial group would put on events and invite other people to come and join you. And now we've kind of flip that on its head. For us now, it's not about us running events. It's not about us doing the things to connect people. It's about saying to other people in the community, what would you like to do? How would you like to contribute to your local community and offer other people the opportunity to connect? You want to do this thing or you want to do that thing? They sound fantastic. They're obviously things that you're passionate about and that you care about. How can we support you to make those things happen?
I think there's something really interesting about that, Dave, in this sense of like, sometimes we feel like there's maybe an aspect of this that's living and breathing it ourselves, you know, kind of practicing what we preach, doing it in our own lives too. But then there's also the aspect of really valuing for each person to self-determine their own way of doing that in a way that makes sense for them. And I think my observation is that you've kind of been on a journey of discovering that in some ways, because you're so amazingly active and known in your local community. I feel the need to share with everyone that Dave is affectionately known as Mayor Dave around the Vic Park area, because he is so known and so involved as such a natural leader of things locally through his work with the Vic Park Collective. Maybe for a little bit of kind of context too, you could kind of share a little bit about what this looks like in the context of your own life and your contributions through the Vic Park Collective locally, Dave. What's that looked like for you?
I'm not, for the record, the mayor of Vic Park, and I would never be the mayor of Vic Park. Let's make that very clear. But some of my friends think it's a good sign of how I am in my community. As Nick said, I'm part of a local community group in my area. My community group is called the Vic Park Collective, and we're a tiny little organisation. There's like five or six people involved, and we work to make our area uniquely awesome. And the way we do that is we put on fun things in our community, and we're really lucky. I often describe ourselves actually as being a bit selfish, and what I mean by that is we put on things that we want to see happen in our community. We just happen to be really jolly lucky that other people enjoy the same things we do. So, you know, we put on things like pop-up movies, we put on community talks of topics of interest, we've run markets in the past, we organise micro-granting evenings based on a concept that came out of Detroit called Detroit Soup, where you turn up and you pay some money and you hear people pitch an idea and then you vote for the winner, and your entry fee goes to them as the winning pitch. Festivals, and we also, over the years we've been around for about 7 or 8 years. We have now got into kind of writing more strategic documents for our local government. There's a whole bunch of things that we do that enable us to make our area a little bit different and a little bit interesting to live in. And I think that's I guess how we're evolving BeFriend as well. I think it's interesting the way we are at the moment, is that we've evolved from kind of, or are in the process, I should say, of evolving our community building with BeFriend from, I guess, how we started out really, which was small scale, local, everyday events. So whether that's a walk in the park, a coffee at the local cafe, going to a movie, going maybe 10-pin bowling, or going out for dinner, anything like that. And that model has been super successful for us, let's be honest. We're here 11 years later. We have somewhere in the region of 150 trained hosts, people in their local communities that want to contribute and run events. And we have somewhere in the region, Nick said, and the numbers took a bit of a dip during COVID, but somewhere in the region of 150 to 200 events every month across the Perth metro area. And so it's been a super successful method of building community. But I think what we're looking to evolve now is coming to the realization that actually events are not the only way to nurture belonging and connection. And small scale everyday events, while they will inevitably remain a core part of what we support in communities, they will end up being a part of how people connect with other people in their communities. So, we look at different ideas, different ways of people supporting people who want to connect. And if people come to us with ideas that maybe aren't small scale everyday events, that's okay too. We're in a space now where we can do that and we support that. And that's taken us a while to get there. And that's okay too. But yeah, I think there's a kind of an evolution in how we do the things we do.
Dave, in some ways you make it sound so easy. I'm like, oh yeah, no, we just like put on pop-up movie nights in the park and we have all of this amazing stuff happening. And in some ways there's a beautiful simplicity to it, which really resonates with me. But I think we also kind of know just how personally challenging it can be to put yourself out there and, take the first steps towards convening something locally that brings people together. I know that we've had a lot of conversations about confidence and taking those sort of personal risks, putting oneself out there. I'm curious about, from your personal experience, what have some of those personal challenges been like for you, and how have you kind of worked through them or overcome them, and what have you noticed or observed in others in their journey towards that as well?
Look, I think I probably do. I think I probably simplify putting on events a little, maybe unhelpfully so, but because it can be a little bit more complicated, especially running festivals and that sort of thing is not just turning up on the day and suddenly having 5,000 people on a street having a party. There's a bit of work that goes into it, but I think, look, I think there's a couple of things in that. Firstly, this idea of starting small, right? Like, the big street festivals that we run and that we have run in the past, and 5,000 for us was a small one. A 50,000 person event was a bit of a bigger scale event. Those things take time. Like, we're all, from my personal perspective, as part of the collective, we are we're, as I say, 7 or 8 years old, and it's taken us time to get there. These are not things that we have managed to do in the first year or 2 or 3 of our existence. And it's about starting small and doing the little things that you do feel confident about doing. And I think that's also reflected a lot in BeFriend, to be honest. This idea that you can do, the small wins give you confidence to be able to go on and do bigger things, right? And to be able to learn from experiences that you've had, whether they've been massively successful or wildly unsuccessful. If you're, from my own personal experience, running collective events, we've run festivals where we've had 30, 40, 50,000 people on the street for 8 hours on a Saturday. We've also run events where the only people in the room have been the 5 people from the collective because no one has turned up. And not everything is a roaring success, right? Some things are pretty awkward, actually. You've splashed out all this time and energy to do these things, and no one turns up. And this idea that we're a selfish group of people that only does the things we want to do, well, that's great, because there's 5 of us in the room and we get to enjoy this experience, but we wish there were other people with us as well. And I think, one of the things that we do in terms of support for people, in their communities through the BeFriend context is to talk to people and support them through those experiences where maybe they're new to this idea of hosting events, or and it's a brand new event. They don't know how many people are going to turn up? No one's RSVP'd online. They're worried they're going to be going to a movie by themselves or sitting in a cafe by themselves. And how we can support people to do that, how we can reassure people that this is a normal experience, that it can be quite nerve-wracking, that on the first or second occasion, sometimes it takes a little bit of time for events to generate momentum, to get the word out there so that people know what's going on, so that people are familiar with the regularity of a particular event. They're familiar with the person or people that are hosting that event. And maybe it is a co-hosting scenario. Maybe it's not about just you going out there and putting yourself out there by yourself. Maybe you have someone that could support you to do that. Maybe there's a co-host that you've connected with through the BeFriend community that maybe has a shared interest, or maybe lives in the same geographical area as you and is happy to kind of come along to that first or second or third or fourth event and be there kind of as your wingman and or wingwoman, wing person, and to be able to be there with you. Maybe there's a family member or a friend that you would want to you'd want to bring with you. We always say part of our role, one of the roles that BeFriend plays is supporting the existence of the BeFriend group on Meetup. And one of the things, I can't remember where that was going, sorry, that's okay. That thought has totally flown my mind. That's all right. I'm going to mute myself for a moment to gather my thoughts. Over to you.
That's quite all right. Thanks, Dave. Well, I'm just noticing that we're just after 9 p.m. in Brantford, and I think at this time we probably start to get at risk of folks dozing off to the delightful sounds of your soothing voice, Dave. So we might, this might be a nice time for us to move into some small group conversations to kind of have a little bit more conversation around this for everybody in small groups together. So I think Taylor's going to kindly open some breakout rooms for us in a moment. So we might have about 3 or 4 people in each group, just to keep it nice and small, make it easy for us to kind of perhaps get to know a couple of new folks and have a bit of a chat, share our